Hello, listeners. This is Ty, your host of the Jalapeno Podcast. This episode is the introductory chapter to a separate show that Aaron and I have created called Places to Be. It is 14 parts meant to be listened to in sequence. So introduction, chapter 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way through chapter 14. Again, this is just the introduction chapter to Places to Be, and you can find Places to Be by searching on Spotify or iTunes or what have you. I hope you enjoy the introductory chapter here and then jump over to Places to Be to listen to the rest of it if you're so inclined. I hope everybody's doing well out there. All the best from Team Jalapeno. On we go. Places to Be, the debut project of its kind from Vassalando Creative and Jalapeno Productions, edited and produced by Aaron Mason, with music throughout from Case Calloway, North Americans, Nat Evans, and Michael Gunlock. Recorded, written, and narrated by Ty McDonald. This story is dedicated to my grandfather, David, Pop, old pal, who has taught us to always follow our questions. Part 1. Go away and be quiet. The search is what anyone would undertake if he were not sunk in the everydayness of his own life. To become aware of the possibility of the search is to be onto something. Not to be onto something is to be in despair. Walker Percy, The Moviegoer. Introduction. The pattern and the clamor. On a rainy morning, at a diner in Seattle, two men sit in swivel chairs at the counter, drinking coffee. It's early. The place is mostly empty, and they talk in spurts between stretches of silence. The younger one, a visitor, asks the older, a local, for his advice on the road ahead. The older man sips, pauses, and declares he's not one to give advice. Fair enough, thinks the younger guy, and after a minute or so, he tries again. Well, I have a car, and I'm driving around all over, exploring. Any thoughts at all on that? The older man swivels to the younger with new levity and offers this. Take one road at a time. Keep your eyes open, and your mind. Outside the cold window, steady rain riddles the sidewalk puddles. In November 2019, about a year before writing this, I took a road trip on a whim around the Pacific Northwest corner of the United States. I went to Portland, rented a van, and set out to revive something important. Important to me, at least. It seems now like yesterday. Yet life for all of us has changed significantly since then, and for me, today's reality is far from the one last fall that spawned the adventure at hand. And I say on a whim, but I should clarify. I'd had vague and frequent daydreams about a trip like this for years, but the decision to act was made relatively last minute. A portal emerged and I went through. It was time. It was clear that it was time. And at that time, it was maybe the only clear thing. I'd been living in New York for years, liking it just fine. At once invigorated and overwhelmed by the city's buzzing energy and ambitious tenor, I was seeing and doing and learning a lot. The job allowing me to live there had me traveling quite a bit, 4 days at a time on a regular basis, doing work I realize now, especially in retrospect, that I wasn't particularly suited for. But it was a steady job and I was lucky to have it, and for better or worse, I hung around a few years, bouncing from subway to office to car, to highway to airports and planes, and apartments and hotels and back. From here to there to nowhere. And we moved as always through time. Amid this hollow and frenetic routine, a certain internal shift was underway. A lot was happening around me, yes, but I had the sense that I'd been cut off from a certain vital frequency. There is, I know, a lively and glorious station out there. But my radio was fuzzy and nearly out of charge, and I found this off-putting. Something essential, deep down and true, let's call it spirit, had been lost. Or if not lost, dulled. Quieted slowly over time. Months, then years were gone, and I hadn't always been there to witness. And I felt more and more like a cardboard cutout. Falling asleep at the wheel, we all know, is dangerous, but in many ways that's what it had become. At the same time, thankfully, a restlessness rumbled within. And the longer the whole thing lasted, the stronger the swelling urgency became, this thrumming desire to tune back in, to get out, to go away somewhere alone and get quiet and see if I could wake myself up, welcome myself back to my own life. Alas, this little road trip. This is Ty, your host. Thanks for listening to the Jalapeno Podcast, and please enjoy. For years, I should add, I'd been recording conversations with people whose work in ways I found compelling. People paying attention and applying it toward worthy ends. Speaking with them asked me to do the same. In this pursuit, this conversation project was perhaps the only thing keeping me switched on. So why not blend the two forces, I thought. The call of adventure and the spark of true connection. Improvised van trip meets recorded audio from the road. Discussions, some prearranged, some serendipitous, along with notes to self throughout the experience, threaded together after the fact by some hopefully coherent narration. Chronicles of a modest excursion. To say, if only for my own recollection and for the sake of the bonds made on the trail, once upon a time, this happened. So that's what I did, and this is that. Here we are. It's called Places to Be, and it follows the 2,000-mile loop I took in a rented Dodge Caravan around the great American states of Washington and Oregon, once upon a time in November. I hope you'll enjoy the ride as much as I did. Thank you for joining in on the quest. My name is Ty, and here we go with Places to Be.